Judges 13, 24 to 25. And the woman bare a son and called his name Samson, and the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, because between Zorah and Extar. Now this is the story of the greatness of a man called Samson. That after God has anointed him, God gave him a name, told the parents, don't put razor on this guy's head. That was not enough. God still carried him into training. And there is a way that God trained military men. There is a way that God trained kingdom generals. The Bible says the Spirit of the Lord began to move him. The Spirit of the Lord did not move him first to the palace. The Spirit of the Lord moved him to a place of training. The Spirit of the Lord did not move him to the king's palace, to the king's ground. The Spirit of the Lord moved him to a hard ground, to a place where he needs to be trained. Every trainer must be trained in order for the trainer to be able to train those that God has sent to him. In every dispensation, there are those God lift up and make a show, a public show of the person and a public spectacle of the person, and announces the person as a trainer of a generation. But before then, God will first of all pass that person through a school where he's training the person. How then did the hair of Samson grow? It was the training of the Lord. And as the Lord began to train him, the hair began to grow. The hair of Samson was not just a physical hair. It was physical and spiritual. The hair began to grow. Both the physical and the spiritual, they began to grow. The physical hair was connected to the spiritual hair. How then say that Delilah cut off the physical hair? Delilah cut off the physical hair that was connected to the spiritual head, and that is why Samson went down. Samson grew in the spirit. Samson did not only grow in the physical. That is why the Bible says Jesus grew in the spirit. Jesus grew in stature. Jesus grew in wisdom. Jesus did not only grow in the flesh. Only the hair of Jesus did not grow. The spirit of Jesus was growing. The mind of Jesus, the medulla oblongata of Jesus was also growing alongside. How did Samson become great? Samson passed through seasons of training, series of training, because the trainer needs to be trained in order to be fit for the job. The trainer needs to be trained in order to be effective for the assignment in the consignment that God has sent him to. For every assignment, there is a consignment, and that is the signature of God that he sends a man. Now, delay is God's training ground for men. Delay is God's training ground for generals. Delay is God's training ground for armies. Delay is God's training ground for military men. If you want to be strong, embrace delay. If you want to be weak, reject delay. Satan has made many to be praying prayers of delay for 20 years, not knowing that they are supposed to embrace it and spread their wings over that delay and begin to fly on that very delay. Because to every delay, there is something God is saying. To every delay, there is something God is saying. Delay is not stagnation, although stagnation can be delayed. Delay is not denial, although delay can be denial sometimes. But delay is in existence because of a provision and allocation that God has allotted for a training in a season and a series of training for someone in the school of the Spirit. For every school of the Spirit, there is a training, and sometimes the training can look like a delay. Sometimes the training can look like a delay, not knowing that it is a setup that is appointed for the promotion of mankind. Oh, the glory of mankind is in the beauty of the training of the Spirit that they went through. And all of a sudden, Samson's hair began to grow. The Spirit first moved him to a training ground. Samson's hair began to grow. The love of Samson was because of the beauty of his hair. The love of Samson was because of the power he wielded in his generation. But how did Samson wield this very power in his generation? Samson was kept in a time and in a season for the hair to grow. How long did it take the Samson's hair to grow? How many years did it take Samson's hair to grow? How many days did it take Samson's hair to grow? And yet in the eyes of men will say this is delay. But yet in the eyes of the Spirit, he said, I'm growing your hair spiritually. I'm growing your hair spiritually. I'm growing your wisdom. I'm growing your insight. I'm growing your might. There is something that I'm doing in you. So delay is to be embraced, because delay is not denial. Delay is not stagnation, but delay can be stagnation. But delay is not stagnation. For every stagnation, there is a stagnant water, and for every stagnant water, there is a pool, and for every pool, there is an ocean, and for every ocean, there is something that God is saying. There is something that God is saying. There is something that God is saying. There is something. God, delay is God's weapon of making men. Delay is God's weapon of building men. Delay is God's weapon of chastising men. Delay is God's weapon of arresting men. Delay is God's weapon of harmonizing men. Delay is God's weapon of reaching out to other men through you. You would have not probably been here if you have not been delayed. Many people may have not probably been where they want to be, or where they are currently, if they have not been delayed. And at that very junction, what God is doing is that God is cooking them. At that very junction, what God is doing is that God is making them strong. At that very junction, what God is doing is that God is making them fit. At that very junction, what God is doing is that He's making them fit. For every fitness, there is a fitness, because God wants you to fit into something He's doing in a generation. How then do you fit in to something that God is doing in a generation when you are not fit? So He carries you through a physical fitness procedure, through a spiritual fitness procedure, through a mental fitness procedure, in order for you to be fit in what you are doing. How fit are you for the assignment that God has for you? How fit are you for the calling that God has given to you? How fit are you for the vocation that God has sent you? How fit are you for the assignment that God has sent you? Delay is the speaking of God, saying it is time to learn. Delay can be the speaking of God, saying it is time to retreat. Delay can be the speaking of God, saying there is something I want to show you in this season. Delay can be the speaking of God, saying there is a wisdom that I want to teach you in this season. Delay can be the speaking of God, saying, look up, look up, look up. And I want to teach you how to look up. I want to teach you how to look up. You have been looking at men, you have been looking different, 1,000 directions all this while. I want to teach you how to look up. Delay can be the speakings of God, saying, men are men, and men are wise. But God is God, and God is wiser. What is delay? Speaking. And what has delay spoke? What lesson have you carried out from that delay? How well are you running with it? Stop kicking delay out. Embrace it and rise to height in your calling by it. Stop kicking delay out. Embrace it and rise to height in your vocation by it. Stop kicking delay out. Embrace it and rise to height in your walk with God by it. Stop kicking delay out. Embrace it and rise to height in God. Delay is good, and delay is from God. Delay is good, and delay is from God. There are many people that will not be where they are today. They are not delayed. There are many people that will not sing the song that they are singing now if they are not delayed. There are many people now that will not be in the height of celebration where they are, and they will not see the kind of honor that they are seeing now if they are not delayed. So why kick delay out? when you are supposed to rise with it, by it? Why kick the layout when you are supposed to rise through it? Why kick the layout when you are supposed to spread your wings and fly through it? Why kick the layout? Why kick the layout? For delay is the wisdom of God to set an appointed time for a man, knowing fully well that the man will be able to apprehend his speaking at that very time and be able to run with his speaking at that very time. So in delay we run. In delay we fly. In delay we emerge. And in delay there is the dawning of a new day. How then do men experience the dawning of a new day? How then do men experience the brightness of the sun and the brightness of the moon? How then do men experience this? How then do men experience their morning? How then do men experience their morning? Oh, we sing our morning has come, and we cry our morning has come, and we reject the things that should bring the morning. We reject the things that should bring the brightness. We reject the things that should bring the favor, and we celebrate the things that are to be celebrated, but we embrace the things that are not supposed to be embraced. Delay is the wisdom of God for the hour. In delay, we grow. In delay, we become strong. Stop praying against delay. Pray for grace instead to utilize it and rise to the height in your calling and your choosing profession through it. For every delay, there is something that God is saying. Lord, what are you saying? Lord, what are you saying? Lord, what are you saying? Do you want me to look left or you want me to look right? What are you saying? What are you saying? So in delay, you are looking up to get inspiration from God. In delay, you are looking up to get insight from God. In delay, you are looking up. You say they look up to God and they were not ashamed. In delay, you keep on looking up, knowing fully well that your help is from God. Knowing fully well that there is something that God is speaking in that very season. The Bible said, and the Spirit of God, first of all, began to move Samson in the training ground. He moved him for wherever he is. He brought him to the training ground. And some people will be in the training ground there, they'll be shouting, I want to leave. They'll be in the training ground there, they will not even know that that is the wisdom of the Spirit for them at that very season. And yet most people will be reacting in that training ground. Lord, what are you doing? Lord, what are you saying? And the Lord will say, I am here with you. Son, I'm here with you. Daughter, I'm here with you. For God speaking mysteries. God speaking wisdom. God speak through experience. But in all of the speakings of God, know that you have the mind of Christ to grasp what God is saying in the season. You have the mind of Christ to understand what God is doing in this season. And every time you tell yourself, I have the mind of Christ. I have the mind of Christ. I know what God is doing in this season. I have the mind of Christ. I can understand what God is doing in this season. I have the mind of Christ. I can understand the direction that God is taking me to in this season. For every direction, there is a director. And the director is the King of glory. And the director is seated on the throne. And the director is God